What is going on, everybody? My name is Ciara Lawler. Welcome back to a very special Hero or Zero episode here on the Heroes for Hire podcast. Now, it's happened again. Shaun is away again this week, which means, ladies and gentlemen, that we get to have a chat. If this is your first episode of Hero or Zero, I am normally joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Shaun Mead, doing the whole intro. Don't know why. I have nobody to throw to, but he's on holidays this week. He just lives in the affluent north. Like, he's going on a few holidays a year. You know how it is. And so that means we have been left alone. It feels like when the smart person leaves the room and now we're all the idiots that were just left over. And that means I get free reign to do whoever I want for a Hero or Zero. For these episodes, for the last one, I did Tim Drake. If you want to go back and listen to that was, I think, only a few weeks ago. He goes on lots of holidays. But this week, what I decided to do was along the same lines. Anyone who listens to this podcast know that I love, the whole Batman universe, all that stuff. And very early on in this show, on this podcast, I should say, we kind of covered a lot of Batman characters really, really early on. And one of those characters was one of my favourite Batman creations, and that is Terry McGinnis, Batman Beyond, or Batman of the Future. I think that was what it was called in Australia. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, this character is one of my absolute favourites, and I think we covered him in the I think it might have been episode 10, like that early on. Tim Drake was episode 3. I think this was like episode 10. That's how early on this was. Now, this is, I think, 4 years ago, nearly, at this stage. So what I've decided to do, since then, we have actually bought some good microphones. And we've also got some good recording areas. You might not think it. You might think the audio is pretty shit on these episodes, but they're actually better than they were, because you couldn't get worse than absolute dog shit. So thank you for all the people who've been here since those episodes. We hope that you're thinking now, yeah, they've gotten slightly better. So what I've decided to do is maybe redo a character that we've already done, and maybe hopefully do him justice again this time, with a bit of better audio quality. And it also means that when Shaun's not here, we don't do a character, I don't cover a character that, say, he doesn't know anything about, because that's kind of the fun of Hero or Zero. I find a DC character I'm assuming he knows nothing about, and then we kind of all learn together. If we do that this week, he's going to come back and say, well, why did you do that without me? That could have been a fun time. So we're going to be covering Terry McGinnis. Hopefully it's not going to be a very long episode. Tim Drake, I did ramble. Very hard not to ramble when it's just you on a podcast. I remember thinking back to the last time, God, I'm talking a lot. But then I remembered, if I don't, it's just going to be silence. So that is what we're stuck with. Also, if you like what you hear, if you've listened to any other episodes and you liked what you hear, when there's two of us, could you give us a like and review, whatever podcast platform that you're listening to this on? It would really help us out. Don't go to our TikTok at the minute. Shaun put up a video about Star Wars, that's only about 37 seconds long, and it's from our review of Revenge of the Sith. I think it's in line with Obi-Wan coming out, and every comment is Star Wars fans calling me a dickhead. So that's good stuff. I'm really proud of him for picking the 30 seconds. That means that the whole fan base turns against me, but he comes across real well. He comes across, oh boys, he's smooth sailing, absolutely perfect, but old con man, he's getting a bit of abuse. I was reading like, lads, come on. I don't even like Obi-Wan Kenobi, whatever his name is. No, I know. Have you seen episode 3? So good. So good. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about Terry McGinnis. And I think the only place to start is there's probably a few people, quite a lot of people I would say, that haven't seen Batman Beyond, the animated series. And Terry McGinnis is really interesting because, as far as I'm aware, he was created for the TV show and then brought into the comic books. And the comic books are within that canon of the animated world. So he wasn't actually in mainstream DC, that run of, say, Batman, Robin, all them. The animated shows had their own comic book world that was happening in the 90s and in the 2000s. So Batman the Animated Series also had its own run. And the story behind Batman Beyond is really fascinating, how he even became to exist, because obviously you have Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, all the lads working on Batman the Animated Series. And season 4 gets greenlit, it's all a go, it gets called The New Batman Adventures or whatever, and it's all going great. But then one day CW come to them and they say, we've cancelled season 5. There's no season 5 of Batman the Animated Series. So first of all, I mean, we're all thinking, why? They were kind of killing it. But secondly, okay, cool. So Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, they all kind of all go away. And they're basically told, what we want from the CW is, because Buffy the Vampire Slayer at that time, I think it's like 2000, they were like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is killing it. Absolutely killing it. It's a teenager with superpowers, or a teenage hero surrounded by friends that solves crimes and does all that stuff. And so, I mean, I understand Buffy doesn't solve crimes, but I know somebody's going to come. I'm just thinking of the TikTok comments, lads, please. But what they wanted was, they were like, we want a teenage Batman. Cool, hip, down with the kids. That's what's going to get them all involved. And we all kind of know that, I mean, teenage Batman just does not work. Doesn't make any sense. And so Bruce Timm kind of even said that to them. He's like, but you do realise if Batman's a teenager, then he doesn't have any of the skills he learned. So how could he be a teenager in school solving crimes? But because he's not technically Batman yet. And they're like, we don't give a shit. Just fucking make it work. It's absolutely fine. Yeah, teenage Batman, hip, cool, year 2000. And I'm sure they talk like that. They also like did the finger guns as well, just when they were doing it. But so they kind of go away. Bruce Timm goes away, and he's thinking to himself, he doesn't want to ruin the canon that they've created with Batman the Animated Series. Like, they've spent 4 seasons, they've won several Emmys, they've absolutely just done like one of the, I would say, the best animated show of all time. So I mean, you don't want to then just go, okay, well, we'll just scrap that, we'll move on to the next thing. So he comes up with a new idea, that instead of having Bruce Wayne as the teenage Batman, the only way you could do it is, instead of going backwards, to go forwards in time until there's another young person that takes over as Batman. And within that whole thing, then that raises a whole host of other issues. And Bruce Timm, I think, has even said in an interview that he was talking to the executives at the CW, and he's just basically spitballing this. Like, they're like saying to him, like, you're either fired or you come up with some. And he's just, well, we go forward in time, and there's a future Batman, it's Batman in the future, and all. And he's just basically coming up with this on the spot, as we've all done. Like, he's done a book report on a book he hasn't read. And eventually one of the CW execs is like, that's a great idea, let's do that. And then he's, of course, shitting himself, because he's like, I don't actually have anything. It's just like, there's no backup to this. I just have something I just came up with randomly. So he goes away, gets the whole team together from the animated series, and they basically break it down over like several weeks. And because the CW says, we want to launch this in October, so you've got to have this all sorted out probably in the next maybe 3 weeks. So they have to create a whole new show in 3 weeks. So they all go away, they all come up with it. And within that, then they also have to come up with all the new villains, because they didn't obviously want to have Bruce's villains. So they have to create villains from scratch, not in the comic books. They have to create every character, because there's no canon for this. It's just them doing it off their own back. And that's why I think Batman Beyond is Batman Beyond is more impressive as a concept than the animated series. Obviously, the animated series, I would say, is better, but as a concept, like, they just had nothing. They just came up with it on the spot between them. And there was even said at one stage they were literally just drawing people, and there's a villain called Shriek, and his thing is that he can take all the sound out of any room or any situation. And how they came up with him was literally, over this 3 week span, they're all just drinking cups of coffee in this room, papers everywhere, smoke, I'm assuming, everywhere, and they're just drawing people. And one of them just drew this villain, and they just hands it to, I can't remember who they handed it to. I don't think it was Bruce Timm, but they handed it to somebody else. They were like, okay, this guy has something to do with sound. I don't have anything else other than that. He's a villain. Go. And then they had to come up with it from there. So they have the design, but they don't have anything to do with the backstory, who the villain is, all that stuff. So within all that, Terry McGinnis comes along. And Terry McGinnis is a really great character because he absolutely should not work, because who wants to watch Batman when Bruce Wayne is a Batman? And how they made it work was the series is about Terry. It's not about Bruce. And it would have been really easy. They had Kevin Conroy come back as Bruce Wayne. You could have really easily just done a storylines of old cranky Bruce. He's getting into scrapes and he's kind of going along. And then there's a Batman there and he just kind of just does the save every time. That's not what it is. It's Terry's story, and then Bruce is kind of along for the ride. And he basically just adopts Terry as his son that he never had. And so, I mean, where to start with Terry McGinnis? I suppose you have to go off the episodes. And if anyone hasn't seen it, where it's based off of is that we join Gotham City when Bruce is in like his 50s, and he's designed this futuristic suit that gives him enhanced strength, enhanced speed, enhanced stamina, because obviously he's getting slower. So he's now designing suits to try and counteract the fact that naturally he's just becoming slower and more beaten up every time. And he has this suit, and I think it's the mayor's daughter gets kidnapped. It's just like a classic cliche story. There's a damsel in distress. Batman shows up. He beats up all the kidnappers. But just before he's about to beat up the last kidnapper, Bruce has a heart attack. And like a legit heart attack in the bit, because obviously like he's pushing his body to the limits. I think he's 50 or 60 at this point. And he just has a heart attack in the middle of the fight, and the guy just starts beating him with a fucking crowbar, like just absolutely just wailing on him. And eventually it comes to the point where Bruce, as a last ditch effort just to survive, reaches across and he grabs a gun that had been knocked out of somebody else's hand, and he points it at the villain, at the kidnapper. And the kidnapper obviously is like, puts his arms up and runs away. But like, that is your first start of this series isn't going to be for kids. This series is along the same lines as the animated series. Bruce Wayne retires because he broke his one rule. That is like, to be fair, like that is a fucking cool reason for him to retire. Because why else would he leave? Nothing else would happen that would make him leave unless he died. It would have to be something along that level. So the fact that it took him having a heart attack, he was about to die, then he picks up the gun, and then you see him go, never again. Once he's picked up a gun in a fight with any criminal, he never wants to be Batman again. So he just retires the suit, retires as Batman, leaves it. And where the series begins is 20 years after that. So Bruce is like probably 75 at this stage. He's long since retired. He lives away in Bruce Mansion, or in Wayne Mansion. Bruce Mansion. Wayne Mansions. Nobody ever sees him. He's still CEO, I think, of Wayne Tech. But there's a guy called Powers who's also over Wayne Tech at the minute. I think it's Wayne Powers Tech. I think it's like a merger or some shit. But he's basically off to the side. And we joined Terry McGinnis, 17-year-old, played by Will Friedle. And he's just like a normal he's just a generic child. He's just kind of, he's in school. He goes about his days. His father and his mother are divorced. And this was after him and his little brother were born. So you can see massive differences between himself and Bruce and Meech. Like Terry does have a family. He has parents. He has a brother. It's completely different just in terms of upbringing, origin, all that stuff. But Terry turned out to be like a bit of a juvenile delinquent. He got in with a guy called Big Time Bigelow. Charlie Big Time Bigelow, great name. If your nickname is Big Time, that's pretty good. And he became a member of a street gang, actually, Terry did. And he actually spent 3 months in juvie. And that's kind of where he comes in. And it's like, that's, when you think of Bruce Wayne, you think of like someone who's never done anything wrong ever. Well, he's done a lot of bad shit, but like for the greater good, he's constantly at that. He would never do anything bad in that regard. Whereas Terry is just like, he got in with the wrong crowd. He just started doing some really stupid shit, spent time in juvie. And then when he gets out, he's trying to turn his worst habits around. He's trying to get better. Because he's causing a lot of strife for his parents, and his father particularly is just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're just letting the whole family down. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to try and go straight for you, Dad. And he gets a girlfriend, Dana Tan. Everything's going great. But eventually one night, him and his dad just have a fight over something stupid. I think it's like he wants to go out to a party. His father's like, no, you're not allowed to go out. He's like, well, screw you. You're not my real dad. Fuck off. You know, we've all heard the cliche stuff. So he leaves. And when he's out, he gets attacked by a street gang. And this is another street gang. They're called the Jokers. So it's just like a group of people who've looked up to the Joker. Because the Joker's probably, well, if we go off the movie, not dead. But in this scenario, he's long dead. But he has like these disciples, these gangs that are dressed up like the Joker. If you think that's far-fetched, just think of life now. So bad people get groups named after them. So Terry gets attacked by these Jokers and he's fighting them all off. But eventually he gets chased by them on motorbikes onto the outskirts of Gotham City. And he ends up at the grounds of Wayne Manor. You can see where this is coming together. So he's getting attacked by the Jokers. There's like 6-on-1. An aged Bruce Wayne appears and comes out, and he assists Terry in defeating the Jokers. Basically, Bruce just like uses his walking stick to just beat the shit out of a few of them because he's still Batman. The strain of the fight, however, places substantial stress on Bruce's heart, and he collapses. And Terry helps him into the mansion, and while he's in there, you're never going to believe this, there's a bat stuck in the clock. So Terry goes across, tries to help the bat. I mean, he's a good guy, and accidentally discovers the Batcave while Bruce Wayne is passed out with his chair. So he walks down, and this is where he discovers, obviously, Bruce Wayne is Batman, all that stuff. He discovers the new high-tech suit that's down there. He's like, holy shit. Bruce wakes up, comes down, kicks him out. Immediately, like, get the fuck out of here. Who the fuck are you, kid? Get out of here. And he returns home, but he finds it covered in Joker's graffiti and discovers that his father has been murdered. So you have the classic, him and his father had a fight, he leaves, when he comes back his father has passed away. And so obviously he's grief-stricken, and so he looks through his father's belongings and he finds out that a disc that Warren had taken from his boss, Derek Powers, guy I mentioned early on, Warren works for Wayne Tech or Powers Tech or whatever, and he basically found a disc that was like Derek Powers is doing some bad shit. And Derek Powers, who's like the big CEO other than Bruce, is like, well, I'm going to make him go quiet. I'm going to make him disappear. And then frame the Jokers. So he thinks it's the Jokers that killed him. So he gets his henchmen to go out and kill Warren and then put ha 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 on all the walls. So the police just think it's another gang attack. Terry rushes back to Wayne Manor. And he gets let back in by Bruce, and Bruce examines the disc, and the disc reveals that Powers was making a deadly nerve gas to sell to the government of a foreign country for war crimes. Bruce refuses to get involved, and Terry's like, and he just tells Terry, go to the police. Terry then is like, well, what the fuck are the police going to do? Like, they just killed my dad. So he comes back to the Wayne Manor, he ties up Ace the Bat-Hound, and he steals the Batsuit. This is the high-tech one. And it has rockets in the shoes, it's got wings. If you haven't seen the intro to Batman the Animated Series, by the way, or Batman Beyond the Animated Series, go watch it. It's an absolutely great intro. It's a completely different vibe from the animated series itself. So Bruce obviously discovers the theft, and he gets on the radio and he's like, you're a fucking stupid kid, you're stealing my suit. And Terry's like, no, it's the right thing to do. I'm going to use this suit to fight Derek Powers. And there's actually a great scene where Bruce is like, give back the suit. And Terry's like, no, I'm going to have justice. And Bruce is like, well, if you don't want to give back the suit, I'm going to turn it off. And so when he turns it off, it just loses all power. And so Terry can't move. And it's in the middle of a fight. And Terry's just getting beaten to death by lads with baseball bats. Like, all of the henchmen. He went into like the fight and he was fully powered. Bruce shuts him down. He's getting beaten to death. And there's a great story where he's like, Bruce, if you don't turn this back on, I'm going to die. And so Bruce Wayne is like, okay, fine, because he's still Batman. So he presses the button. Suits goes back up, or wakes back up. Terry beats them all up. He eventually finds Derek Powers. He overcomes him. Inadvertently, he exposes him to his own weapon. Classic villain origin story. And Derek Powers he becomes a villain called Blight, who is basically nuclear power. Like, he's nuclear energy in human form. And so, convinced that there's still a need for Batman, Bruce visits Terry after all this early one morning. And he basically is just like, wants to hire Terry as his personal assistant. And so Terry's mother is like, oh my God, Terry got into summer job. That's fantastic. And Bruce and Terry are standing there like, yeah, this is cool. And the episode 1 literally ends with Bruce saying to Terry, welcome to my world. And so you're just like immediately brought in. And I just think, just as an origin story, I mean, it's perfect in that regard. That it's just, Terry's just trying to do the right thing. And Bruce is old and cranky, but he kind of sees that Terry has good in him. Even though, like, he has a troubled past, but he's trying to do good. He's trying to be better. And he's also trying to earn money to help support his family. Because obviously now his father's passed away. So he's, like, trying to bring in some extra money for him and his mother and his little brother. And so within that, like, throughout the whole series, you have a whole host of villains that he comes across. I mean, you've got Blight, I've mentioned, Shriek, as I mentioned, the Royal Flush Gang, oof, great name, love the name, the Royal Flush Gang, Spellbinder, Carrara, and I mean, there's just a whole host of new villains that they've created, and ink as well. You'll notice that a lot of the Batman Beyond villains are very similar to Spider-Man villains, and that's, I'm pretty sure, done on purpose, just due to the fact that I think it's just because you have a teenager in school surrounded by friends being attacked by people. I think it's basically Batman mixed with Spider-Man. That's what they try to accomplish with Terry. And Terry also has like a man in the chair, or a girl in the chair, I should say. So say Spider-Man, Peter Parker has Ned in the movies. Terry has Max Gibson, who is like the smartest student in his class, and she's constantly helping him on the computer, coming up with first class skills at research, data retrieval, like computer hacking, all that stuff. He's jokingly called her as Alfred after she ordered him to never address her as Robin, so that's just a weird little fun thing to have. But the main thing is that Terry's different from Bruce in a lot of ways. As much as you would think that they would try to make them similar, the why this series is entertaining is because of their differences. And one of the best stories about Terry, other than just in general how he came to be and who he is episode by episode, and him learning and Bruce learning to trust him more and more, because obviously it's the Batman mantle, he's passing it across, so he's very grumpy, you might be shocked to know. But during the Justice League's early days, back in the day, it's revealed that this is in an episode of Justice League Unlimited called Prologue. I think it's like the last ever episode of Justice League Unlimited. It might be the last one or two, but it also counts as an episode. It's the last ever episode of Batman Beyond, and it comes in at like a 31-year-old Terry McGinnis. He's been Batman for about 14 years at this stage. He comes to visit Amanda Waller, and why he goes to visit Amanda Waller is that Bruce needs I think it's a liver. I think he just needs he needs a surgery. And they were looking for genetic tests, or genetic people who would be able to pass across some of their DNA or some of their blood or whatever, some organs. And it turns out that Terry and Bruce are not only a match, but they're identical. Their DNA is identical. And so Terry's like, what the fuck is going on here? Bruce, you are some scumbag. Am I a clone? Like, it comes out that like he thinks he's a clone. So he goes to visit Amanda Waller and is like, what's going on? Because she would know more than anyone if there was some sort of situation. And she actually reveals that Bruce had literally nothing to do with it. It was all her. And Terry's like, what are you talking about? Because so Amanda tells the story that she's seen Batman getting older. He was getting slower as he got, like, obviously she's watching the Justice League, and the more slower he became, that obviously the more injuries he picked up, and she realised he wouldn't be around forever, and the Dark Knight would have to retire or someone would finally kill him. So, drawing on her old Cadmus contacts, she devised a scheme to give Batman a genetic son who would likewise be compelled to take up a life as his successor. So she was going to like make her own Batman in a lab to take over from Bruce when he died. So she obtained a sample of Batman's DNA, and a young couple was later found that were almost identical psychological matches to Batman's father and mother, which were Warren and Mary McGinnis. You're kind of seeing where this is going here. And so she gets Warren a letter sent out that he needs to come in for like a flu vaccine or a flu injection of some sort. And so Warren goes in just thinking it's a generic kind of thing, but she's organises so that instead of being injected with any sort of flu vaccine, he's injected with Bruce's DNA. And so Bruce's DNA will override Warren's DNA if he is ever to have a child. And so it's real comic booky bullshit, but and you'll be surprised to know that Terry McGinnis and his little brother, I can't remember his brother's name, but the two of them both have black hair, and Warren and Mary McGinnis both have red hair. So I think genetically, like a redhead DNA is the stronger gene, so that will always come out if one of the parents has it. But if both the parents has it, you have like 100% like ratio that somebody, the child will end up with ginger in their hair at some stage. But what happened here is Terry and his brother both black hair, and so it's actually there from the very start, but it's just never mentioned. Like you just never would think it if you're watching the animated series or like the animated show. But like once this is revealed, like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense, because genetically that makes no sense that two redheads would have two children and both of them would have like jet black hair. So they both are technically Bruce's sons. And so to go even further, she's like, okay, what do I have to do to make Terry Batman? I'm going to murder his parents. And so she hires the Phantasm, I should say, from Mask of the Phantasm, the animated movie, to kill Terry's parents coming out of the cinema. So I mean, to like replicate the origin story. And the Phantasm's like, you can see her like behind them about to kill them, and then she backs away because she's like, I don't want to just kill two innocent people, like they haven't done anything wrong. So she leaves them alive, and through that it's like it's showing that Terry would have just become, it wasn't something to do with her or anything that she did. Like Terry just became Batman through a series of events. Like he was just kind of always destiny. It was always destiny rather than planned. Like she gave to him the DNA, but after that it was kind of left alone. And it just happened that he was the one who ran across Bruce Wayne that night. And so like with that, Terry gets told that he's not a clone. You're actually Bruce's son. And it's something that's like fascinating to him. But it also, because he's not a clone, is why he's so different. Because unlike his mentor, like he has a childhood, he had a childhood which is completely different for Bruce, and he also faced demands of a normal teenager his age, like a school career, his girlfriend, the responsibilities of like trying to bring in money as the eldest son in a family that like their father has passed away, so he's trying to help out his mom. Matt McGinnis, sorry, it's his brother's name. And so he also has to kind of try and keep the secret life as well. And so with that, there's also like the personality differences. So they have a lot of similarities in terms of they both just want to do good, and that's where it works. But where it doesn't like kind of go together is that he doesn't actually possess anything close to Bruce Wayne's like years of training in martial arts, and he doesn't have the science of detection. He's basically like, he's a street fighter and he's an agile gymnast before he takes up the Batman mantle. Initially, the Batsuit obviously gave him several advantages, including he can fly, he's got enhanced strength, protection from attacks, but however, he engaged in regular and rigorous training to ensure that he didn't become dependent on it. And after a while in the series, he basically develops like an Olympic level physique and lightning quick reflexes without the suit. So he doesn't actually need the suit at all. He's also somewhat less dependent on the formal fighting styles Bruce employed. And he's quite willing to use dirty tricks whenever necessary. And that's kind of shown in Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, which is an animated movie we reviewed over on our Patreon. I don't know when that was, like 4 months ago maybe. But it's where that's revealed is that like he's fighting the Joker, and Joker actually mentions to him like, oh, you literally have just hit me below the belt. So he just doesn't give a fuck. Like, he's willing to fight dirty. If you fight dirty with him, he will fight dirty with you. Whereas Bruce is always like, no, we have to stick to the perfect kung fu that I have learned over 50 years, and then I will see this through. And there's also like, he has the great thing with the Joker in that movie where Bruce is in his headset and he's like, don't let the Joker get in your head. Don't let the Joker laugh at you or just keep going forward. Just keep hitting him. And Terry realizes to himself, I'm not you. Like, that's not how I'm going to solve this. So he actually does the opposite. He starts talking to the Joker while he's beating him up and like angering the Joker by telling him that he's just not funny. Like, you're just not a funny clown. Like, when have you ever had a good joke in your whole life? And Joker's getting more and more pissed off because this is the first time Batman's ever talked back to him. Normally he just like says nothing. So he's just like, he just keeps going. So that kind of shows like, as a character, Terry is so, I would say he's more resourceful in terms of like, he's not willing to go inside certain boxes. He's willing to go anywhere just to win the fight. Obviously he might not stab you or shoot you, but like he's willing to also talk shit while he's beating you up, which is the opposite really of Bruce. Bruce obviously never says anything. Terry also extensively has studied Bruce's crime-fighting archives to develop his skills at medicine, mechanics, investigation. He's not formally trained as a detective, but he does have an above-average intelligence and has basically kind of learned from Bruce. And once again, there's a great scene in that movie where Bruce is sidelined for a little bit and Terry's just left alone just trying to solve the mystery. And he's just like, the real Batman or the other Batman would have found one little clue that everyone else missed and it would have has this solved by now, but I cannot do that. So I'm going to have to think logically in other ways that are more aimed at me. And that's not seen as a bad thing because Bruce is like, no, sometimes your way is right. Sometimes I was too fixed on thinking things through rather than just moving. His most important strength was the realization that he did not have to be just like the old Batman, and had talents the other didn't possess. The most shining example of this was shown during, as I said, with the confrontation with Joker. He unsettled the villain through mind games instead of physical combat, which you wouldn't ever see Batman do that ever. Terry McGinnis has donned the last batsuit ever built. This is his equipment. Initially developed presumably to compensate for Bruce Wayne's age. He inherited the suit and he basically just uses it to its full capacity. So it's got all the usual stuff that Batman has, but it also has the wings that he can glide, he can fly. He uses a severely upgraded version of the Batmobile that is like a flying car because it's obviously in the future. And a cool little side thing in regards to Terry is that Will Friedle, who played him, he actually did the opposite of what Kevin Conroy did with Bruce Wayne and Batman, with Terry and Batman. And by that I mean in terms of the voices. So Conroy depicts Batman as the normal voice while raising the pitch for Bruce, and Will Friedle did the absolute opposite, with Terry being the real voice while Batman speaks with like a more put on gruff tone. It's not like Christian Bale level, but it's like just a deeper voice because likely due to obviously the other Batman being older, whereas Terry's only 16, so obviously his voice hasn't matured fully yet, so he's kind of like trying to put it on to pretend like he's a grown man. And yeah, empowered abilities, I mean, he's got gadgetry, hand-to-hand combat, throwing they have here. I don't know if throwing is an ability. I suppose it is. We can all throw. The Batsuit also automatically conforms to his size, so has glider wings, thrusters on the boots, and even a cloaking device. It has enhanced strength by a factor of 10, allowing him to lift up to 1,700 pounds. It's got forearm spikes that can extend out. It's got visual assistance, He's got a personal communicator, so he's constantly in talks with Bruce, who's back at the Batcave, just kind of seeing everything that he's doing. So they're kind of always working together. He's got significantly resistant to heat, electricity, water, and vibrations. And he has a built-in rebreather for underwater combat or exploration. So that's kind of all the things to do with in terms of Terry, what he has. I mean, in terms of his, the stuff that suit can do, there's like a whole other page, but you get the gist. I mean, it can do a whole bunch of stuff. Mostly they use it as like whatever the story needs, the suit can normally do, or maybe he can figure out a way to make it do that. And that could be the plot where he gets his ass handed to him, then he has to like add something else into the suit. Well, Bruce does normally. Terry realises that's Bruce's area of expertise. But yeah, that's kind of my little report on Terry McGinnis. I hope you enjoyed it. I would really recommend even just watching the first 2 episodes of Batman Beyond. There's also a great episode where Bruce gets de-aged by Talia al Ghul. That's an absolutely spectacular episode. Some absolutely great ones in it. People kind of overlook it, but that is definitely a series you should go back and watch. It definitely holds up. But I think that's it for this week's Hero or Zero. I don't have anyone else to throw to. Just a little report on one of my favourite Batman characters. Hopefully we don't have to do this again, because Shaun won't leave us again. But while he's not here, we can say I always thought he was a bit of a dickhead. I'll tell him that on Monday as well. But for now, bit of a dickhead. You can follow us on any social media. I'll just leave it at that. You can follow us on any of the social media platforms. So as I said, we have a TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. They're all down below. You can get access to all of them. It's at Heroes for Hire Pod. On Twitter, it's the 4 is the number 4, but everything else is just Heroes for Hire Podcast. We also have a Facebook group if you want to have a chat there. And we also have a Patreon where we recently released a review for Moneyball, which is one of my favourite movies of all time. It was in time just for my birthday at the end of May, so we released that. And we will also be releasing our Obi-Wan reviews probably next week as Shaun is away, so we're pushing everything back another few days. But most importantly, we also have a website. If you want to go there, we've got loads of episodes if you want to find any of them. But most importantly, just tell one human being that we exist. Just a one, please. So I've been Conor Lawler, and we shall see you all next week, guys. Bye.